On yesterday's episode, we reacted to a writer and their predictions for Caleb Williams while also talking about the MVP buzz that's going around Caleb Williams. So today, I decided let's add more actual color to that, right? And I am going to look at the last three quarterbacks to win MVP, compare their stats to Caleb Williams, and we're going to create a pathway for what Caleb Williams needs to do to really be in the MVP conversation this season. We're also going to do that with the Chicago Bears pass rush and defense. We're going to look at some of the last few Super Bowl defenses and how far are the Chicago Bears really from having a Super Bowl caliber defense, and how much could that defense hold them back this season. We'll talk about that, plus the training camp dates and the Chicago Bears scheduled joint practices. All that and more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. So I want to take a look at Caleb Williams and what he's done and how far he is from being away from former quarterbacks that have won MVP over the last three quarterbacks that won MVP. Not the last three MVPs, but the last three quarterbacks to win MVP. Because I think what you can do there is you can look at and make a realistic kind of projection on where Caleb Williams needs to be. We've had these, tangential conversations about Caleb Williams and the completion percentage and stuff like that. But I think when you really compare it against other quarterbacks that have won MVP, it paints a more full picture of it, right? So let's talk about Caleb Williams so far. And we're going to talk about career numbers. For his career, he has a completion percentage of 60% while throwing for 7,483 yards. He has a touchdown to interception ratio of 47-13, and he has a yards per average of 6 yards per average with a QB rating of 89 over his career. He also has 877 rushing yards to go along with 3 rushing touchdowns. That's what Caleb Williams has done over his career. He has a career record of 16-18 as well. So I want to look at the last 3 players that have won MVP that have been quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson in 2023, 2024, and 2025, right? I think what you can create here is a realistic path on what Caleb Williams needs to do. So when you look at it, Lamar Jackson, for example, and the graphics up on the screen, Lamar Jackson, for example, when he won quarterback in 2023, and when he won MVP in 2023, he had a completion percentage of 67%. Josh Allen had a completion percentage in 2024 of 63.6%, and Matthew Stafford last year had a completion percentage of 65%, right? And so when you put that, the MVP average of the last 3 quarterbacks to win MVP is a 65% completion percentage, something that Caleb in last year was 58%. So then you look at pass yards as well. Pass yards. The MVP average for pass yards is 4,039 yards. You had the Matthew Stafford raised that average quite a bit with his 4,707 yards last year. And then Josh Allen in 24 had 3,731. And then Lamar Jackson had 3,678. When you look at Caleb in 2025, 3,942. So he already has the yardage to get you there, right? There's no doubt about that. The touchdown to interception ratio, when you look at it, Matthew Stafford had 46 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Josh Allen had 26 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And Lamar Jackson had 24 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That puts the average for the last 3 MVPs at a 32-7 touchdown to interception ratio as a quarterback. Then the yards average. Through the 3 quarterbacks that last won MVP, that had an average yardage of 7.9 yards per attempt. Caleb Williams 6.9, so he's not extremely far off that, right? Even his touchdown to interception ratio is right in the area which you needed to as well. The QB rating. When you look at it, Matthew Stafford had a 109 QB rating, Josh Allen had a 101 QB rating, and Lamar Jackson had a 102 QB rating, which makes the MVP average be 104. Caleb Williams in 2025 was 90. So that QB rating needs to go up quite considerably, right? And so when you look at that and pair that with completion percentage, the completion percentage and QB rating go hand in hand. So if Caleb Williams gets that completion percentage up towards the 63-ish percent that he needs to be, well, the MVP average is 65%, but I think a realistic place for Caleb is probably about 63% is probably what you can look at least in next year in year 3. We can take it a bit further from that, right? So that's just the reality of it. I mean, when you look at it right now, Caleb Williams is far off. The touchdown interception ratio is right there. The pass yardage is not that far off. The MVP average is 4,039. He's at 3,942 last year. So he's not extremely far off from that. He's not far off from the touchdown interceptions, not far off from the pass yards. It's just the completion percentage and the QB rating, which again go hand in hand. So when you talk about when people ask questions like why are people harping so much on QB rating for Caleb Williams, it's because of something like this. It's because of that QB rating. It's because of the completion percentage. You see, if a quarterback is a Super Bowl winning quarterback or an MVP winning quarterback, that is what they have to do. Then you look at the team record. The average wins for a quarterback that won MVP is 12.7. You had 12 from Matthew Stafford last year, 13 from Josh Allen in 24, 13 from Lamar Jackson in 23. That puts the average of 12.7 wins. The Bears last year, 11 wins, right? So again, he's not that far off from the wins. So when people talk about where Caleb Williams needs to improve to legitimately be an MVP candidate, it's accuracy and completion percentage. That is where Caleb Williams is. He was 58% completion rate in 2025, which is 5.5 points below Josh Allen, 6.9 below Matthew Stafford, and 9.1 between Lamar Jackson. So that's it, right? 7.2 points below the 3 MVPs together. He needs to improve that in a meaningful way, right? Then the per attempt efficiency. Caleb Williams threw for nearly 4,000 yards, but he required 568 attempts to get there. That's 6.9 yards per attempt, which remain, a full yard below the MVP average. But again, completion percentage goes up, QB rating goes up, he's going to get there. In 2025, his rate of over 568 attempts, you got to get that 7.8 up. It's going to be there. The touchdown production, 27 touchdowns from Caleb Williams is right there. It's not dominant, but it does produce enough, right? He also produced 31 total touchdowns when including his 3 touchdowns that he ran for on the ground as well. For comparison, Matthew Stafford had 46 total touchdowns, Josh Allen had 41, and Lamar Jackson had 29. So again, not extremely far off from the mean between those guys of what he needs to do. The overall passing efficiency continues to be somewhere where he really needs to step up. The average 104 QB passer rating in that is where he has to stand up at. The 90 is not going to cut it. But the team success. Yesterday, had a semi-passionate rant in which I talked about it all comes down to winning. The Bears just have to win if they really want to get into the place of having that conversation, and we'll see if they can do that, right? The MVPs have won 12, 13, and 13 games. He's not far off from that. He needs to get there. The 11 wins, it's an outside shot to win it, right? 12 wins makes you a legitimate MVP candidate along with the 40 touchdowns. 13 wins, an extremely strong MVP candidate. But if you can get to 14 wins and overcome the completion percentage and the passing totals, he's going to be right there in regards to it. So we talked about yesterday, and I reacted to somebody talking about the projections for Caleb Williams, and I said that I felt it was low. These are my MVP target goals for Caleb Williams next year. Completion attempts needs to be 375 completions on 575 attempts. The completion percentage needs to be 65.2% if he wants to be adamantly an MVP candidate. I think you can get there around 63.5%, but 65 gets you there, right? Passing yards. You need about 4,200 yards at minimum to get there, but let's set the goal at 4,400 yards because we know how good this offense can be. Passing touchdowns. 37 passing touchdowns you need with 8 or fewer interceptions that you need in regards to that. That gets you to a yard per attempt of 7.7, a passer rating of between 103 and 105, rushing yards, let's just say because Caleb, we know he can make plays with his legs, between 350 and 400, with about 3 to 4 rushing touchdowns. You get there. If Caleb Williams can get to about 4,600 total yards of offense between running and passing, and people may say that's a bit low. Caleb Williams can get into that. He needs about 41 to 42 total touchdowns as well. And the Bears record, I would say, has to be between 12-5 and 13-4. If Caleb Williams really needs to get there, right? He doesn't have to lead the league in passing yards. He's already only 97 yards below the average of the MVPs, the last 3 MVP seasons. So that's the reality. He's only 97 yards below that. But the MVP path has to be about efficiency for Caleb Williams. Completion percentage, the yards per attempt needs to be there, the 40 touchdowns needs to be there, and we need to win at least 12 games. That's it. So that's the cleanest formula for Caleb Williams to really get to being an MVP caliber quarterback this upcoming season. Can he get it done? I guess we'll see. Of course, I'm going to hold out hope because he's my guy. But again, this is a realistic path for Caleb Williams to get into that conversation of being an MVP. But we know that the defense also is a big part of this, right? And so we've made so much conversation about the Bears pass rush that I felt like in having conversation about Caleb Williams and being MVP, we also have to compare the Chicago Bears pass rush to other teams that have won the Super Bowl. So I'm looking at the last 6 teams to win the Super Bowl here in regards to it. So let's just talk about it. When you look at the average, for the Super Bowl average for sacks is 44.5. The Chicago Bears, 35. Now, the Patriots last year also had a 35 sack season. So there you go on that one. It brings the mean a little bit down. But the Bears are far off from having a Super Bowl caliber pass rush, and they're doing that by almost 9.5 less sacks. Well, not almost, 9.5 less sacks. Also, the points allowed. The last 6 Super Bowl champions have had an average points allowed per game of 18. The Chicago Bears, 24.4. That's not going to cut it in regards to it. But then let's also take a look at the pressure rate in regards to it as well, right? When you look at it, the Chicago Bears finished with 35 sacks, 84 QB hits, and only 40 QB knockdowns as well. That's a 29% pass rush win rate, which ranked 31st in the league. When you look at it, the Bears were approximately about 10 sacks below the recent Super Bowl average of allowing only 6.4 by allowing 6.4 points more per game, right? So the team that the Chicago Bears should really study is the Seahawks. The Seahawks generated 47 sacks. They had a 26.1% pressure rate that was 6th in the NFL, and the pressure while blitzing was only 19.3% of the time. They only blitzed on 19% of the time. They had the league's best third down defense at 32% completion on the conversion on the third downs. 17.2 yards allowed per game and just 3.7 yards allowed per rush. That meant that Seattle could get away with rushing their front 4 and maintain 7 defenders in coverage that still disrupted quarterbacks as well. The Chicago Bears were nearly the opposite of all of that. 35 sacks, a 29% pass rush win rate, right? A 40% third down conversion rate, 5 yards allowed per rush, 361 total yards allowed per game, and 24.4 points allowed per game. Chicago's defense survived because we led the league in takeaway rate. That's it. That's why I make such a big deal about getting away from living and dying by the takeaways. Like, you still want to coach up to that, but you have to do more than that, right? And here's where Chicago has to improve in their pass run. We have to win with our 4 rushers more often. This is the biggest weakness of the Chicago Bears right now. Dennis Allen had to manufacture pressure because the defensive line just lost its individual matchups way too often. We have to win our individual matchups up front. If we're going to do that, that's where we can be there. The production outside of Montez Sweat, only 18 of the Chicago Bears' 35 sacks came from defensive ends. Sweat had 10 of those by himself, meaning the rest of the edge group only combined for 8. And 4.5 of those came from Austin Booker. So you have to be better in regards to that, right? Right now, we do not have a proven second pass rusher. Now, we're hoping that Austin Booker makes that leap for the Chicago Bears this year, but we just don't have that yet, right? That allows offenses to slide protection towards Montez Sweat without really fearing the matchup on the opposite side. We have to change that this year, and we have to turn pressure into more hits. The Chicago Bears registered 84 QB hits last year, which ranked 25th in the league. And the fact is, the Bears didn't just simply fail to get sacks. We frequently failed to make quarterbacks uncomfortable at all. We have to make quarterbacks more uncomfortable. The target for 2026 should be 100-plus QB hits, 50-plus knockdowns, and 45-plus sacks as a team. That is what the expectation should be for the Chicago Bears. Now, how do you get there? I don't know, but you need to find a way to get there if you want to be taken seriously, right? And then you also have to look at the interior pocket collapse. Gervon Dexter produced 6 sacks last year, but we need more consistent interior pressure than that. Grady Jarrett only had 1.5 sacks, while Dayo Odeyingbo only supplied 1 sack before tearing his Achilles So you need better than that, period. You need better than that, and Gervon Dexter and along with Jordan Vandenberg are going to be big parts of that, hopefully. Then you look at the run defense. The Chicago Bears run defense was absolutely trash, bro. Absolutely trash. And if you can't improve that run defense, you have to. But that's where Austin Booker comes in. He generated 29 pressures despite only 10 games played, and he finished very strongly. If Austin Booker can become an 8 to 10 sack player this season while putting pressure on there, that brings a lot for the Chicago Bears. So when you talk about the targets for the Bears, like I said, looking at the 2025 Bears versus the target, last year we had 35 total sacks. You got to have 45 at a minimum last year. QB hits, we had 84. We need over 100 this year. QB knockdowns, we had 40. We need to be about 50 to 55 next year as well. The pass rush run rate, we were in 29%. It has to be 36% or higher next year. The third down defense, 40% conversion rate, it has to be 35 or lower in regards to that one. And then the rush yards per attempt, 5, that has to be at 4 or lower. We need to knock a whole extra yard off of that. And that may not seem like a lot, but when you look at how it accumulates over the course of a game, that actually is quite a bit. And the points allowed per game, 24.4, we have to be between 18 and 20. That's where we have to be. The Bears' defensive line simply, it can't just be just about more sacks. It has to be a consistent, better four-man pressure in regards to it. Montez Sweat is a good lead rusher. He's good. Great sometimes, but he's really good, right? But you need Austin Booker to break out. You need Gervon Dexter to become more consistent, and you need somebody else to step up, whether it's Jordan Vandenberg, Grady Jarrett. You need somebody else to step up. Otherwise, the Bears can only ignore not having a proven edge to rusher for so long. So unless Austin Booker makes a major step this year, the Bears' rush defense and pass rush and overall has to get a lot better in that front four production, and let's see if they can get that done. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Again, more analytical of an episode than we regularly do, but again, that's the point of being here in Chicago Bears Central. Like, we're not going to do just the things that everybody does. We're going to get into the weeds, and this is going to be something I do more. Going forward, is getting into the heavy analytics of things so people can kind of understand when we have these conversations about completion percentage or whatever else, why are we having it? Even somebody was like, why are you guys making so much of the pass rush? This is why we make so much of the pass rush. When you hear about how the Bears compare to other teams that are actually legitimate contenders, the Bears are far off in those two areas. And we have to get better at that if we really want to make that next step as a team. And let's hope that we can do that, man. Let's hope that we can really do that. But with that said, I want to close out the show talking about important training camp days that are coming up for the Chicago Bears this season. And when you look at it, training camp is coming, right? Rookies report July 25th, which is about a month away. Veterans are going to report July 28th, which is really good in that case. And, we're getting closer and closer to that. And as we get in, this training camp is going to be an intense training camp for the Chicago Bears because, again, to the things that we talked about. You already heard the coaching staff talk about how we need to coach players better, how they are the thing that they're looking at to make the difference for this team is how big of a difference the coaching makes for this team and coaching those guys up. And so if the Bears can do that, that's really good, right? So we have the rookies reporting on July 25th. That's good. They have another opportunity to continue to learn the playbook, build chemistry with their coaching staff, build chemistry with each other, have a chance to turn heads. And then you have the veterans with July 28th, right? So the team is also going to announce their training camp schedule, also the full camp schedule in the near future. Another thing that we did get announced as well is the joint practices. So we will have a joint practice with the Cincinnati Bengals on August 20th, and then another joint practice with the Tennessee Titans on August 27th. Both joint practices will be on the road before we take on those teams in the preseason matchups, and that's really good. I think when you look at like what needs to happen in regards to this one, like what to prepare, Montez Sweat said this. I'm expecting the worst. Yeah, just be prepared. Hopefully it will be a little bit easier this time. I've already been through it, but yeah, live days, hard hitting, long drives, playing preseason games. I'm ready for it. And us as Bears fans need to be ready for it as well because this season is so important for the Chicago Bears to take that next step. And not only the things that we talked about, let me know what's the next thing you want me to dive deep into the analytics, like maybe what the Bears need from their receiving core to truly be an elite receiving core this year. Adding in Colston Loveland, what Colston Loveland needs to do. I think we've already talked about that, though, to really make that step to be an elite tight end this year. But the things are there. And you see where if the Bears want to measure themselves up against the best, you can no longer keep holding yourself up accountable to just what the Bears did last season. You want to make that step. You want to be a legitimate contender. You want to be taken seriously. So now the gloves come off. We are going to start comparing the Bears to what the best teams do, because you need to be that best team. Chicago deserves it. The players deserve it. The coaching staff deserves it. But you have to fight to get there. And you can only get there through making a real accountability of where you are as a team. And we'll see if the Chicago Bears can do that this year. I'm hopeful. I know we have a difficult schedule. That schedule isn't going to get any easier, but I really am coming into the season hoping that the Chicago Bears are going to make the necessary steps forward as a team to be exactly where we need them to be. And let's see what's going to happen in regards to that. But that's going to do it for today's episode, man. I want to hear from you guys in regards to this one. We just went over Caleb Williams' legitimate path to becoming an MVP and the formula. It becomes down to 4,400 passing yards, 40-plus total touchdowns, better accuracy, and at least 12 to 13 wins. The bigger question in regards to this is, can the defense to provide enough support? And we'll see if they can do that one. Let me know your thoughts on everything down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. That is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.